Armand here with your forecast for it's my forecast for the week of October. Maybe it's just the forecast for the week of October 22nd. Maybe what I'm doing is avoiding the forecast for the week of October 22nd. We've had some pretty tense weeks in the past, and we have some pretty tense weeks coming up, and this one is really no exception. We'll be sort of in the midst of this tension. I don't see it letting up anytime until sometime around after the first week in November. We'll talk about that a bit during the November forecast, which will happen on Saturday, October 28th. That'll be Saturday, October 28th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. That'll be live if you're here for that live forecast. And you can watch it in reruns if if it's not a good time for you or something like that. So there we have it. Oh, yeah, the forecast for this week. Well, it's one of those things. We have an eclipse coming up this week. We have a lunar eclipse, which is certainly worth our attention. And even before that, we have some stuff going on. Well, the lunar eclipse is a big deal. The lunar eclipse is a big deal. That is on Saturday, and we'll be feeling it certainly. Well, we're in eclipse season, so we've been feeling it all along, but Saturday will be a big day for it. But let's talk about what happens earlier, because on the 22nd, that's Sunday, on Sunday, Mercury goes into Scorpio, and then on Monday, the sun goes into Scorpio. And you say, Armand, every year. What's the big deal? Every year. Who cares? It's Scorpio season. It's all of that kind of thing. It's that whole, sort of gothy kind of Halloween sort of vibe going on and all that. Yeah, all right. What's the big deal? The big deal is this. Once the sun goes into Scorpio on Monday, the 23rd, we have quite a configuration. We have no planets in fire or air signs. All of the major planets will be in water signs or earth signs, yin signs as they're called, as opposed to the brighter yang signs. So, and that includes 3 of the 4 goddess asteroids. Only Pallas Athene in Libra is the exception. Perhaps helping out a little bit, perhaps, offering a little perspective on some things. She's very strong in Libra. I think she's sort of one of the co-rulers of that sign. It should be good in some respects. It should be good for things like, well, it hasn't been too helpful for legislatures recently, has it? It could bring a drop of diplomacy and I suppose legal stuff if, should whatever. It's not a lot though. And of course, the moon will also be going through the fire and air signs every couple of days, sort of switching back and forth, like 2.5 days of water, 2.5 days of air, that kind of thing. Water than fire, but you get the idea. That's also not going to be tremendously helpful with all of the other planets in earth and water signs. So what does this mean? Let us start by saying what it means not to have fire and air in the sky. Fire is inspiration, it is enthusiasm, it is spiritedness. And so with no fire in the sky, we're really not feeling that fire energy. It's not warming things up. It's not giving us that sense of inspiration. Now, that sounds kind of bad. The other side of the story is, though, fire energy just inspires everybody. Right? There's no reason, it inspires people to do crazy shit just as much as it inspires, a more compassionate, positive response to things, or actions, not even responses, but actions. So yeah, the fire is going to be lacking. Air is particularly problematic though, because air gives us perspective. Air gives us the ability to see the other side of our own thoughts. It gives us the ability to listen to what the other person is saying. It gives us the ability to see the patterns that are happening in the collective. Right? So air is quite helpful. And I mean, fire is there, all the elements are helpful, but it would be great to have a little air right now. We could use a little air, especially with all the water and earth around. Water and earth are elements that tend downwards. These are downward trending elements. Fire and air are more upward. Fire certainly trends upward. Fire is a movable element. Water is a movable element, but they go in different directions. Right? Fire can't tarry long in the same place. Water goes to the lowest point. So we have all this water and earth, and we're lacking the fire and air. Of course, you have fire and air in your chart. Well, perhaps you don't, but the way that this will affect us has a lot to do with how it's affecting your natal chart and what's going on for you personally. So don't think, well, this is what we all have to deal with. But this is the collective vibe. This is trying to get stuff going in the collective. And it's hard when you're not fired up and you're not getting other perspectives. What happens when you mix water and earth? What do you get? Mud, right? Now you might say to yourself in a more, yes, Armand, but that's also how you get bricks. That's how you get pottery. That's how you get all the things that you get. It's true. It's true. But you only get those things lasting when you fire them, right? You got to bring fire to it. If you don't fire the pot, if you don't fire the bricks, then they're not good. Then they'll fall apart after the first rainstorm, and we're going to have plenty of them. It won't last. So we have this sort of downward trending feel in the sky, and it's hard to build things up. I was thinking about this, and I was reminded of all things, I was reminded of an episode of King of the Hill. If you're familiar with it, great. If not, you don't really need to be. But in one of the episodes, someone says of Hank's son Bobby that he is just a pile of mush. And after really, really kind of trying to push back on that, Hank finally says, yeah, well, the thing about mush is you can't build it up, but you can't break it down either. At the end of the day, mush kind of has the advantage. If I was in a more philosophical mood, rather than quoting King of the Hill, I might say the Tao Te Ching says things along the lines of water has the highest virtue because it follows the lowest path. The Tao Te Ching also says the wise person does not contend with anyone, therefore no one can contend with them. Think about that for the rest of the day if you want. Well, it actually just takes a little while to figure it out. You have to think about it all day. The message that we get here is kind of, this is going to be a time to sort of follow the yin side of things. And indeed, not everyone is going to be following the yin side of things. It's a real peculiar kind of setup that we have, right? We have all the planets in yin, downward trending, in traditional astrology, feminine signs. And yet we have all of this activity. We have all of these tense aspects. We have an eclipse. The lunar eclipse, is in yin signs. So we have this kind of high degree of energy in these sort of cooler signs. It's going to be a little bit tricky to handle it. If you could be a bit of a pile of mush, and you may not build much up, but then again, you might not get broken down. The feeling, kind of the more practical side of that would just simply be to, just go about your business, let things happen, don't take too much to heart, sort of let things pass you by. On the other hand, we're not all sages. We're not all Taoist sages, and many of us have the obligation to be active, to do things, to take a part, to participate in what's happening. Swami Vivekananda reminds us about, he's talking about renunciation, and sort of, just letting the world go by. He says, well, if you're really ready for it, that's great. But if you just fake it, you're going to wind up in all sorts of trouble. You can fake it for a couple of weeks, though. For a couple of weeks, you can fake it. Sometime in mid-November, you get back on the ball. But I would say this is a time to not press too hard unless you absolutely have to. If you know what it is you have to do, I'm not even saying want to do or need to do. It's what you have to do, then do it. It's not a great time for making decisions. It's not a wonderful time for initiating things, even though it is a waxing moon and all of that. So the sun goes into Scorpio, is going to trine Saturn. Even Saturn's not really helping. The great Earth planet is in water. Again, Earth and water getting mixed up together. Sort of gives the sense of letting things flow. Again, it's the sort of, take care of what you need to take care of and don't look for too much. And then we get towards the weekend. And as we approach the weekend, we have a lunar eclipse, and that eclipse is at 5 degrees of Taurus. I don't usually talk about the degree, but I do today. Why? The degree of the eclipse, 5 degrees Taurus, is the same degree as Jupiter's station on December 30th or thereabouts. 5 degrees of Taurus. That's the point that Jupiter's getting back to. We're going to have to see. I don't want to make big pronouncements, although I might on the November forecast. I might make a couple of pronouncements then. But it seems to me that it's a lunar eclipse. Things come to light. Things happen. This is not a quiet eclipse. This is not like, oh, it's in yin sign, so it means nothing. This is a very out there kind of eclipse, as all lunar eclipses are. But it is something that I feel is going to reverberate, and whatever stories come to light, whatever shows up right around the weekend of the 27th to the 29th of October, are going to be stories that are almost kind of held in suspended animation until the end of the year, perhaps. You know what else? This eclipse is now, if you happen to have something right at 5 degrees of Taurus, I suppose 5 degrees of Scorpio as well, this is going to be a very powerful eclipse for you. It's going to be a powerful eclipse for everyone. And as a lunar eclipse, it is volatile. It is a time when things come to light, even more so. And why, you say? Because in Scorpio, Mercury and Mars are going to be opposing Jupiter on the same day as the eclipse. So the sun is in Scorpio opposite the Taurus moon, and Mercury and Mars are conjunct and opposite Jupiter. Same signs, Taurus to Scorpio to Taurus. Very, very volatile energy. Now, Mercury would like to talk it out, I suppose. Mars in Scorpio is just ready to sting. If I think this could be an issue, here I come. So what do you look for in the collective? At every level in the collective, this is a really challenging time. It's a really challenging time. And again, things that are set up now could take a while to get to their conclusion. On a personal level, too, watch out. People are going to be very volatile. It's a lunar eclipse energy, full moon lunacy to begin with. Mars and Mercury opposite Jupiter. People are going to be saying all kinds of shit. All sorts of stuff is just coming out. If somebody's got something they want to get off their chest, off their mind, somebody like out of their liver, it's going to be coming at you. So this is a very, very volatile period of time. I mean, if things are going well for you, and they may very well be, I mean, it could be, it's still a full moon and stuff like that. If you need to say something and it's going to go over well, then, Bob's your uncle. It's not a bad deal. But be aware that a lot of folks are going to be kind of on edge through that weekend of, let's say, Friday the 27th through the 29th. And there's a sort of scorpionic, it's an outgoing popped up energy, and yet it's all sort of informed by a scorpionic hesitation that's sort of pulling back, holding out to the last minute. I'm gonna just wait until, and then I'm gonna tell you. Be careful driving. Be careful driving, right? We have Mercury conjunct Mars opposite Jupiter. Be careful driving. Be careful walking on the sidewalks when it comes right down to it. Watch out for people being volatile and vulnerable, but volatile especially. And yeah, if you have something that's got to get done, then do it. But otherwise, step back, let the world take care of itself. I hope to see you, as a matter of fact, on Eclipse Day, October 28th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern for the live November forecast. It is, in some respects, a little bit lighter than what we've been dealing with in October. That's something to look forward to.